Hey everyone, in this video we'll uncover the most valuable Abraham Lincoln wheat penny you should be on the lookout for. We'll break down what makes these Lincoln wheat pennies so special, how much they're worth in today's market, and what you need to know to sell them successfully at auction. So let's get started. First up, the 1957 Abraham Lincoln wheat penny without a mint mark is one of the final issues of the famous wheat cent series that began in 1909 and ended in 1958. This coin was produced at the Philadelphia Mint, which traditionally did not place a mint mark on its coins at that time. By 1957, the Lincoln cent design was already well known across the United States, featuring the right-facing portrait of President Abraham Lincoln on the front and two wheat ears on the reverse, symbolizing national prosperity and agricultural strength. In today's coin market, the 1957 wheat penny is considered a common date coin because very large numbers were minted. More than 1 billion pieces were produced, which means many examples still survive in collections, jars, and old savings boxes. Because of this high mintage, the value of the coin depends almost entirely on its condition rather than its age alone. A coin described as being in very fine condition still shows clear details. Lincoln's facial features, hair, and coat lines are visible, and the words Liberty and the date 1957 can be read without difficulty. On the reverse side, the wheat ears remain mostly outlined, and the lettering 1 cent and United States of America is strong. However, there is noticeable wear on the highest points of the design, especially on Lincoln's cheek and jaw and on the tops of the wheat stalks. When a coin also has some scratches, its value is reduced further. Scratches indicate that the coin has been handled roughly at some point, possibly rubbed against other coins or hard surfaces. Collectors usually prefer smooth, clean surfaces, so visible scratches lower the overall appeal. Even if the coin is technically in very fine condition, surface damage pushes it toward the lower end of the price range. In the current market, a 1957 wheat penny without a mint mark in very fine condition and with light scratches is generally worth around 5 to 15 cents in US dollars. In some cases, it may reach close to 20 cents if the scratches are minor and the coin has a pleasing natural color. Dealers who buy in bulk may offer only a few cents, while collectors purchasing a single coin might pay slightly more. The metal content also plays a role in its base value. The 1957 penny is made of 95% copper and 5% zinc and tin. Because copper has intrinsic value, even heavily worn wheat pennies often sell for a few cents simply for their metal content. This is sometimes called the melt value, and it sets a practical floor for how low the price can go. It is important to understand that only special versions of the 1957 penny are valuable in a significant way. For example, rare minting errors such as doubled dies, off-center strikes, or coins struck on the wrong type of metal can be worth many dollars or even hundreds. However, these are uncommon and usually require professional examination to confirm. A normal coin without errors, even in decent condition, remains a low-value collectible. Even though the financial value is small, the historical value is meaningful. The 1957 wheat penny represents the final years of a design that circulated through 2 world wars, the Great Depression and the early Cold War period. Just 1 year later, in 1958, the reverse design changed to the Lincoln Memorial, ending the wheat cent era forever. Owning a 1957 wheat penny is like holding a small piece of that transition in American history. For collectors, such a coin is often kept as part of a complete date set or a childhood collection. For YouTube content or educational purposes, it is an excellent example to show how condition affects value and why some old coins are common while others are rare and expensive. It also teaches beginners that age alone does not determine worth. Rarity, preservation, and demand are just as important. In simple terms, your 1957 Abraham Lincoln wheat penny with no mint mark, in very fine condition and with some scratches, is a genuine historic coin but not a rare one. In today's market, its realistic value is only a few cents, usually between 5 and 15 cents, with a maximum around 20 cents if the appearance is attractive. While it may not bring high profit, it remains a classic and recognizable symbol of mid-20th century American coinage and a meaningful addition to any collection. Next coin. A 1936 D Lincoln wheat penny is one of the many wheat pennies struck by the Denver Mint in that year. These coins were made of 95% copper with a small amount of tin and zinc, and they show Abraham Lincoln's portrait on the front and 2 wheat stalks on the back. The D mint mark below the date tells you it came from Denver. In the current collector market, the value of a 1936 D Lincoln wheat penny depends almost entirely on its condition. For coins that have been in circulation for decades and show wear from handling, environmental contact, and scratches, they are generally considered common and are not highly valuable. For a coin in very fine condition, which means the major details like Lincoln's face and the wheat stalks are still visible but the coin shows moderate surface wear, typical prices that collectors and hobby dealers might pay are in the range of about 50 cents up to around $1 and a bit more. This estimate applies to coins that are circulated, have normal wear, and include surface marks like scratches that reduce their appeal to collectors. If a 1936 D penny were in lower circulated condition with more wear and heavy marks, some estimates put its worth closer to about 30 to 60 cents, because collectors almost always place a premium on cleaner, more detailed surfaces. In the worst worn grades the coin might still sell for just a few cents above face value because it is quite common. On the other hand, if a coin has higher grades of preservation, meaning there is very minimal wear, original surface color and no major scratches or damage, it becomes more desirable. Coins described as extremely fine, or uncirculated, can be worth a few dollars or more depending on color and eye appeal. Uncirculated coins from 1936D with high collector interest can sometimes fetch values in the several dollar range or higher in rare cases, but those require much nicer condition than a scratched, circulated coin typically has. It is also important to know that rare varieties or error coins, such as double die mint errors, can be worth significantly more than average examples, sometimes many times more. Those special coins must be closely examined by experienced collectors or graded by professional services to confirm the variety and assess accurate value. If your coin simply shows normal wear and scratches and does not have any unusual doubled features or errors, its value stays within the common circulated range. People who collect Lincoln wheat pennies usually look at factors like how strong the date and lettering are, how much original surface remains, and whether there are deep gouges or scratches. Scratches and cleaning damage tend to reduce value compared with coins that developed natural patina and remained in pocket change without significant abrasions. In summary, a 1936 D Lincoln wheat penny in today's market, if it is in very fine condition with some scratches, is generally worth around 50 cents to about $1 or a bit more to a coin collector. Happier, nicer examples without scratches will bring slightly higher prices, and rare varieties or high-grade uncirculated pieces command more, but the typical worn circulated pieces remain modest in value. Next coin. A 1955 D Abraham Lincoln wheat penny is one of the classic coins that collectors look at when they study mid-20th century copper coinage. It was minted in Denver, which is what the D mint mark stands for, and it is part of the long-running Lincoln wheat cent series that began in 1909 and continued through 1958. For most people today, a 1955 D wheat penny is familiar as a common date in the series, not particularly rare, but it still has interest and value compared to its face value of 1 cent. The value of any individual 1955 D penny depends entirely on its condition, the quality of its surfaces, whether it has original color, and whether there are any unusual or desirable characteristics such as striking errors or attractive toning. In the case you describe, the coin is circulated and in very fine condition with noticeable scratches. Coins that have been in circulation for decades typically show wear on the high points of the design, such as Lincoln's cheek and jawline and the wheat stalks on the reverse, and scratches from handling and contact with other coins are common. These wear and scratch marks reduce the collector value compared to a coin in choice or uncirculated condition, but there is still a market for well-worn wheat pennies because many collectors complete sets that include representative coins from each year and mint. A very fine coin means that there is moderate wear overall, but the major details of the design are still well visible and readable. On the obverse, you can still see Lincoln's facial features, his hair and coat outlines, and the date and mint mark are clear. On the reverse, the word 1 cent, United States of America, and the wheat ears are still distinct, though not crisp. When a coin has been scratched, its surfaces have been disturbed, which lowers its appeal to many collectors who prefer cleaner fields and original surfaces that have not been marred. Deep scratches, especially across important design elements, attract less value than minor contact marks that could happen naturally from circulation. Because the 1955 D is a relatively common date, even circulated examples have a known and established value range in the current coin market. For coins in very fine condition with moderate wear and some scratches, dealers and collectors typically price them at a small premium above face value if they are typical in appearance. In everyday terms, the value of such a 1955 D penny today is usually measured in a range of cents to a couple of dollars rather than tens or hundreds of dollars. In the American coin market, most circulated Lincoln wheat pennies from the 1950s without exceptional qualities tend to be worth between about 15 cents and $2 depending on condition. A coin that is more attractive, with fewer marks and stronger details, might be toward the top end of that range, while one that is heavily scratched and worn would be toward the bottom end. The scratches you describe mean that this particular example is not going to command a premium price, so its value is likely closer to typical circulated pricing rather than anything higher. To better understand the value, collectors often use price guides that list values for different grades such as good, very good, fine, very fine, extremely fine, and uncirculated. A very fine grade indicates a mid-level of wear that still retains clear details. Coins graded extremely fine or uncirculated, especially with original red or red-brown coloration, are far more desirable and can be worth several dollars to many times more, but that does not apply for a scratched, circulated coin. It is also worth noting that there are some famous era varieties in the Lincoln Wheat Penny series that can be much more valuable, but the standard 1955D without any significant doubling or other striking anomalies is treated as a common date. One of the most famous Lincoln penny errors is the 1955 doubled die obverse, but that was produced at Philadelphia and has no mint mark. The Denver issue from 1955 does not normally include that striking error, so most 1955D coins are not error pieces and are valued accordingly. If you want to sell or trade your coin, local coin dealers or online marketplaces will often pay something around the typical circulated value, though dealers buy lower than retail. Someone trying to complete a set of wheat pennies might pay a small premium for a better condition example with fewer marks, but for a scratched and worn coin, the realistic expectation is modest. The attraction of Lincoln Wheat Pennies today is mostly in completing date and mint mark sets or in collecting copper coins that circulated during significant decades of the 20th century. Even though a very fine, scratched 1955D penny does not have a high market value, it remains a piece of American numismatic history and can be a satisfying coin to hold, study, and include in a collection. Coins like this remind us of the everyday change that passed through countless hands, and even worn examples have a story of circulation and use. In summary, a 1955D Lincoln Wheat Penny in very fine condition with scratches typically has a modest market value of only a small amount above its face value, usually measured in cents up to around $2, reflecting its common status and the impact of wear and surface marks on collector demand. Next coin. The 1949 Abraham Lincoln Wheat Penny with the S Mint mark was produced at the San Francisco Mint in the early years after World War II, a period when the United States economy was shifting from wartime production to civilian growth. This coin is part of the famous Lincoln Wheat Cent series that began in 1909 to honor the 100th anniversary of Abraham Lincoln's birth. By 1949, the design was already well known to Americans, showing Lincoln's portrait on the front and 2 wheat ears on the back, symbolizing national prosperity and agriculture. The San Francisco Mint struck tens of millions of these coins in 1949, which means the coin is not considered rare. Because of this high mintage, its value today depends mainly on condition rather than age alone. A coin graded as very fine still shows clear details in Lincoln's hair, coat, and facial features, as well as readable lettering on both sides. However, when scratches are present, even if the overall detail is decent, collectors usually treat the coin as damaged or problems circulated, which lowers its market price. In today's collector market, a 1949s wheat penny in clean very fine condition often sells for only a small premium over face value, usually a few cents to under $1. When scratches are visible, especially deep or long ones, buyers typically reduce what they are willing to pay. Most dealers and collectors would value such a coin at around 15 to 30 cents in US dollars. Some may pay slightly more if the color is attractive or the scratches are light, but in general it remains a low-value collectible. Even though the financial value is modest, the historical value is still meaningful. This coin circulated during a time when America was rebuilding, families were buying new homes, and industries were expanding. It may have passed through countless hands, been used in grocery stores, bus fares, and everyday transactions, quietly witnessing decades of change. Each scratch on the surface can be seen as a mark of that long journey through history. The metal composition of the 1949 penny is mostly copper, with small amounts of tin and zinc. These older copper coins are heavier and richer in color than modern zinc cents, which many collectors appreciate. Over time, copper naturally darkens, creating brown or reddish tones. Coins that still show some red color are valued more highly, but most circulated examples appear brown. Scratches disrupt the smooth surface and reduce eye appeal, which is why collectors strongly prefer coins that are clean and undamaged. For YouTube content, this coin works well as an educational example. It shows how not every old coin is rare or expensive, and how condition plays a major role in determining value. Many beginners assume that age alone makes a coin valuable, but the 1949's wheat penny proves that supply, demand, and preservation are just as important. It is an excellent teaching piece for explaining grading terms like circulated, very fine, and damaged. If someone owns this coin today, the best advice is not to clean it. Cleaning can further reduce its value because it scratches the surface even more and removes the natural patina that collectors prefer. Keeping the coin in a small plastic holder or coin flip is enough to protect it from further damage. While it may not bring a high price, it still holds charm as a genuine artifact from mid-20th century America. In simple terms, a 1949 Abraham Lincoln wheat penny with an S mint mark, graded very fine but showing scratches, is usually worth only a few tenths of a dollar in today's market, often around 20 to 30 cents. Its true worth lies more in its story than in its price. It represents the everyday money of a past generation and carries the image of one of America's most respected presidents. For collectors, historians, and coin enthusiasts, that connection to the past is sometimes more valuable than any high price tag.